Well, we're going to hear a lot about Mr. Nair tonight, and then the next time we read from, because he's getting pretty active. It was a tradition on Nair Wadi that on India Independence Day, August 15th, the tenants would gather at the statue of Mahatma Gandhi in the garden, hoist an Indian flag, garland the statue, sing the national anthem, and distribute sweets. The statue, however, was at the center of Narayan's garden, and he was concerned that tenants might disturb or destroy his plants. In the midst of the ceremony, in his typical gruff way, he asked the tenants, why are they worshiping Mahatma Gandhi when he was nothing but a demon? And of course, they were offended by his remark. And that evening, they held an emergency general meeting. And K. Devasan, the general secretary of the Nair Wadi Tenants Association, wrote to Mrs. Nair the next day. Narayan and another temperamental devotee, Dvijahari, had a fight. Both could be difficult to work with and often thought their way was the only way, and they were passionate, headstrong, and physically powerful, and they didn't get along. This time, their smoldering conflict erupted in a major altercation. According to Narayan, he didn't like the way Dvijahari was talking to him. And, brandishing one of the machetes he used to cut coconuts, threatened, you better get out of my face or I'm going to chop you into pieces. That was Narayan. Dvijahari left, but he returned shortly thereafter with a hatchet and went after Narayan. Narayan escaped into one of the tenants' flats and returned and rented a room in a lodging house for a few nights until things settled down, but news of the incident spread quickly throughout the community. In response to the incidents, Devasan wrote to Mrs. Nair under the subject heading, quote, derogatory remarks about the father of our nation, unquote. I have been directed by the general body to convey following matters to you in writing with a request to take suitable steps. In the year 1946, your husband and you took the initiative to install a statue of Mahatma Gandhi in the middle of Nair Wadi as a mark of respect to the father of our nation, and both of you were taking leading part in the flag hoisting ceremony ever since in front of the statue. Since the beginning of this year, the group of Hare Krishna movement have moved into the Wadi who claim to be lessees of this property. They have been going about erecting temporary structures, lavatories, etc. in the compound. In addition to this, they have built up a garden around Mahatma Gandhi's statue and a fence the same, presumably to keep the cattle away. One of their members, Sri Narayan, has been mainly instrumental in laying out the garden, which the digging implied for inconvenience to the tenants. And whenever such inconveniences was brought to his notice, he had been quarrelsome and abusive, ready to start full-fledged quarrel, using abusive language and threatening violence. All these occasions, we have tactfully avoided matters found so far, and their overall in charge had these occasions apologized to us at the time of such incidents. Quote paragraph. Stating the nature of this man, we had notified their chief regarding our intention to carry out flag hoisting ceremony in front of the statue in advance, and received a verbal assurance from the latter that we could go ahead with this purpose on the Independence Day. However, with some of the tenants starting bathing, the statue of Mahatmaji, Sri Narayan, came forward saying to us why we wish to bathe the statue of this fool. It was explained to him that Mahatmaji is the father of the nation, and also made clear to him that we resented this national insult. Paragraph. When they wanted to plant the flag post, this man obstructed them from doing so. He even threatened that he will not permit such a thing, and if necessary, shed blood to this end. Paragraph, as arguments were getting heated and violence was anticipated, some of the elder tenants intervened. In the meantime, his superiors also came in and pacified him, but he still tried to tell us that they would permit this flag hoisting only for this time, and that by the same evening the flag and the flag post will have to be moved, and in future this ceremony will not be permitted by them. We strongly felt that foreign internationals have no right to dictate us for performance of a ceremony which we have been practiced in the Wadi for the past 24 years. Even if they are full-fledged owners of the property, we do not wish to tolerate such insults to our nation by an individual foreign national! Exclamation point. Do we wish? As long as you are, as we understand, still the owner of the Wadi, we wish to know what you propose to do about such incidents. To give you a further idea of the violent nature of this individual, there was quite a commotion in the Wadi on the 16th August evening involving the above-mentioned Sri Sri NN, Narnarayan, and another member of their movement, where they were seen to be using some weapons of day-to-day use to attack each other, openly leading to gathering of the tenants. We were flabbergasted. We are to bring to your notice that with such persons staying around the Wadi may lead to an assault of our women, children, and gents. A line of reply from you will be highly appreciated. In the absence of any positive steps from you, we will be constrained to approach the government authorities in the matter. Giriraj. I wrote to Prabhupada about this, quote, disturbing incidents that had taken place. When he learned what had happened, he telegrammed me. Narayan immediately returned to USA. And the conflict was diffused. Break. We were so preoccupied with just surviving, dealing with challenges, and executing the specific task that Prabhupada assigned to us that I had hardly thought about the upcoming Janmashtami. But when Harikesh brought it up, I realized that yes, we must do something. We had no funds in reserve. So I went door to door in the Juhu scheme to collect donations, and people were glad to contribute. The new semi-permanent temple, constructed with temporary permission from the municipal authorities, was ready. There was a small room for the deities, and behind it another small room for the pujari's service. In front of the deity's room was a darshan mandap, an area from which to view the deity, with a roof of asbestos sheets supported by steel tubes over a raised floor covered with marble chip tiles. On Janmashtami Eve, the Radha Krishna deities were taken in a colorful procession from the hut to their new temple. Devotees were singing, playing mridangas and kartals, and dancing, and many life members and friends came to participate in the festival. And as Radharani and Krishna approached the front of the property, close to the road, they attracted many local people in a joyous landmark event. Harikesh had taken charge of organizing the next day's program. We had a great Janmashtami, he later recalled, the best ever. We had ladies turning yogurt, making lots of butter, and when we broke the fast, we drank the buttermilk. We had a drama, a play about the appearance of Krishna, Sri Mati and Mother Yashoda, and Dinanath was in it. I organized the event. We had a huge feast for everybody, lots of kirtan. It was a wonderful evening. Gandiva's mother Yashoda made the flower garlands, and Mrs. Warrior did the other decorations. Mr. Seti was involved, and Jagat Purush and Gandiva cooked. Maithili was in the kitchen, and in the temple were Srimati and Tungabhadra and Palika and Malati. Sridhar was doing kirtan with Dinanath, and that skinny young Indian boy, Lokanath. Srimati had made a baby Krishna, and the local people stood in long lines to get a chance to rock him by pulling a cord attached to his cradle. They were all excited about celebrating the festival. Everybody was so happy. Irmila Johri, one of the neighbors, remembered my daughter Vibha helped organize Garba dance with girls from the area, and they were bhajans by the Surdas, Lord Krishna's blind devotee. So, excuse me, Suradas. It's Sur. There's no A in the middle. Surdas. Okay. Lord Krishna's blind devotee and dramas of Krishna Leelas. The platform was decorated and people turned pots of yogurt and butter was taken out. There was a large crowd, and at midnight, with the sounding of conch shell and guntas or bells, the curtain was drawn and the Lord took birth. On Hare Krishna land, it was a bright sight, beautiful sight. The priests bathed the Lord with their honey milk, yogurt, ghee, and water. Tears came rolling down my eyes. I'd never seen such a sight. The pujaris dressed the Lord, and again we had darshan. Everyone was chanting, and we all had charnamrita and prasad, and in the end, we went away happy. I was waiting for Mr. Nair to show up doing something. After the celebration and the inauguration of the new semi-permanent temple on September 16th, I wrote Prabhupada. We had a wonderful Janmashtami celebration. Over 1,000 visitors attended, and they're all very much pleased by the continuous program of artis and kirtans, dramas and slides, lectures, butter churning, and so many other nice transcendental activities. The semi-permanent structure includes a stage, a deity room, pujari room, and a small kitchen for the deities. The plan was very nice, and the execution was also very competent. Prabhupada replied from Los Angeles, I'm glad to learn in detail how the things are going in Bombay. I am always thinking about that place. It is only a few steps away from Juhu Beach, and there are many nice palm trees overhead with cooling breezes. Juhu Beach is the best in the world, he told devotees there on a morning walk. It is very nice. You can go out as far as 1 mile, and the waves are not so ferocious in coming, and the whole thing is clean. The whole beach, 10 miles long, therefore, so many foreigners' hotels are there. I'm looking forward very much to return there soon, he continued in his letter. Only I'm always anxious how the things are going. In a letter to Yadavar too, Srila Prabhupada focused on Juhu. This Bombay project is one of our most important projects in the whole world, and I am looking to you and the others there in Bombay to see that it is done very magnificently. I've been very much encouraged to see some advertisement booklet printed by Air India, wherein the theme is excessively dedicated to Krishna and Vrindavan. With this idea, the Air India company is enticing tourists to come to India simply to experience the spiritual life around Krishna. So in the future, I expect that our Bombay project will be one of the most important showpieces in the world for foreign tourists to actually come and get actual experience of Krishna consciousness or the real Vedic culture. So with this idea in mind, work very vigorously and with renewed spirit to do the work very gorgeously and raise up first our temple and later on the apartment houses as you have planned. Break. One day, a couple of weeks later, a new man came to the temple wanting to join. When, surprised that he had just shown up out of nowhere, I asked about his background. He said his name was Shekhar Kumar Ghosh. He was Bengali. He had been in prison for pickpocketing and stealing. And while there, he had seen a copy of Back to Godhead. He had been attracted by a photograph of Srila Prabhupada, especially Prabhupada's wristwatch. And he decided that he wanted to work, quote, work for him. If not, as he later told me, steal his watch. As soon as he had been released, he had come to the Hare Krishna land. He wanted to meet Srila Prabhupada and become a devotee. I explained to the man that Prabhupada was not in Bombay and that he would have to wait until he returned. As became policy for new people who walked in off the street, he was the first. I asked him to sleep outside, which he did, one night behind a kitchen, one night in the electrician's area, one night at the beach, and the last night on the floor of the temple hall. The man seemed sincere, and when I had seen him attending all the temple programs for those 4 days, I asked whether he would shave up. Yes, he replied at once. Today is a very auspicious day, I told him. Haridas Thakur's disappearance day is a good day to shave your head. I gave him a rupee, and he went to the barber. I also gave him a japamala and taught him how to chant on beads, and I gave him a spiritual nickname, Haridas. Haridas was still anxious to meet Prabhupada, though, and since Prabhupada wasn't scheduled to return to Bombay until late December, he gave Haridas permission to see him for 3 days in Hyderabad, mid-November. So Haridas went to Hyderabad and met Prabhupada and explained the situation, his history, and present status in Juhu. He told Prabhupada that I had given him permission to be with him for 3 days, but that he wanted to stay longer. No, Prabhupada replied, you have given your word to Giriraj, so he must return as promised. Later, Haridas told me, I came to steal Prabhupada's watch, but instead he stole my heart. Battling Nair, page 106. Sometimes Nair dealt with us in such a friendly, or at least ambiguous, way that I became bewildered and couldn't determine if he was our friend or our enemy. I even wrote Prabhupada, Nair is always unsteady and tricky, but at least for the last 10 days he's been very friendly and enthusiastic for helping us, and seemingly more eager to get the conveyance settled before the government passes more laws, which the government is regularly doing at the expense of the industrialists and landowners. 2 days later, I wrote Prabhupada again. Several questions arise. How far can we give into Nair's whims for fear that he will break the contract? How far is Nair sincere in asking the 5 lakhs he claims he needs to pay his back taxes, and he is simply trying to delay things more with a mind to break the contract? My own idea is there is no plot, only Mr. Nair is crazy, and that presently he does not want to complete the agreement, unquote. Once, after meeting with Nair, Yadavar and I sat outside his house and discussed whether he was our friend or enemy, and we could not come to any definite conclusion. So I was confused. But Prabhupada took decisive action. On September 29th, he wrote, you can give public notice in the public notice column, notices column in the newspaper, and send one copy to Mr. Nair as follows. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness has purchased a land in Juhu, Bombay 54, known as Nairwadi Plot Dash, under purchase agreement dated Dash, and we have advanced the requisite money under the sales agreement. The other party, Mrs. A.B. Nair, has not, however, completed the business under some pretext. Under the circumstances, if someone attempts to purchase the land, he does so at his own risk, as we are already in possession of the purchase agreement signed by Mrs. A.B. Nair. That was September 29. Accordingly, on October 7th, the following public notice appeared in the Free Press Journal, which is dated 6th October Mrs. Madhukar Minum and Company, attorneys for the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, with their address in Bombay. As stated in my subsequent report to Srila Prabhupada, Mr. Nair, was outraged by our public notice because he said, "It is spoiling my wife's name," and he threatened to file a suit against us for defamation. And although he didn't say it, he may very well have been infuriated because the notice thwarted any possibility of us selling the land to yet another party. Parentheses. Around that time, one of the neighbor's children heard Mrs. Nair say that she was going to force us out and then sell the property to someone else for more. In any case, he was furious, and accompanied by some other devotees, I went to meet him at his home. In the meeting, Nair made a big thing of the newspaper notice I had published, and after quietly consulting the other devotees, I put my head on the floor and bowed down and offered my obeisances and apologies to him, but it didn't seem to make any difference. Rather, it seemed that from the beginning Nair was planning to cheat us and was just looking for an excuse to cancel the agreement and the public notice. In the public notice, he had found that excuse, but he was upset because the public notice would block him from selling the land to anyone else. That was the real issue. Nair also threatened us. "I have files and files of complaints about you people," he said, "volumes of complaints and evidence and newspaper articles. I've been keeping quiet, but if you go on acting like this, I'm going to ruin your society. I'll go to the government, I'll go to the press, I'll tell them you are spies, you are smugglers, and I will finish you." He was trying to scare and intimidate us, and to some extent, he was successful. Okay. Within days, on October 10th, through a letter from his attorney to ours, Nair canceled the sales agreement. The letter, filled with distortions and falsehoods, concluded, "The said agreement of the sales provides that the time fixed for the completion of the sale shall be of the essence of the contract as mentioned above. The time for completion of sale expired on August 8th, 72. As the sale could not be completed by August 8th, 72, by reason of your client's defaults, the said agreement stands terminated, and our client, Mr. Nair, is entitled to forfeit all the amounts up till now paid by your client to our client. Please note that our client treats the said agreement for sale terminated and broken by your clients, and our client has forfeited all the amounts up till now paid by your client to our client. Our client reserves her right, Mrs. Nair, to claim from your client damages which our client has suffered by reason of the breach of contract on the part of your client." 2 days later, our attorney replied, "Our clients deny that the agreement stands terminated, or that your client is entitled to terminate the same, or to forfeit the earnest money for the reasons alleged, or otherwise at all. In this connection, we have to refer you to our letter of 30th ultimo, which was replied by you only after the lapse of a period of 10 days. Please note that the agreement is still valid and subsisting, and that our clients, if so advised, to file appropriate proceedings for specific performance of the same, and or to claim damages from your client, and to adopt such further and other proceedings as they may be advised after we take full instructions from our clients. In the meantime, all the contentions and or allegations contained in your letter under reply are hereby denied and are not replying to your letter Tim. Our clients should not be deemed to have admitted any of the statements and allegations contained in your said letter. Understand that we were struggling with Mr. Nair, Srila Prabhupada wrote to Mal Krishna. The Bombay dealing has been muddled by the tactics of Mr. Nair and Dewanji. Giriraj is in trouble. He is a child in these worldly dealings, so immediately go to help him. Prabhupada also sent Karandar, having briefed him on his strategy of filing a suit in the Bombay High Court for specific performance of the sales agreement. On October 9th, he cabled me in big letters. Stop all negotiations with Nair. Karandar arriving by October 12 for filing suit for specific execution of sale agreement. He also sent Bhavananda. But when they all came and saw the situation, the group became convinced that we, not Nair, had failed to meet the conditions for the sale and thus could not file for specific execution. We wrote to Prabhupada. Drum roll. Karandar arrived this morning. Tamal Krishna Goswami arrived yesterday, and Bhavananda also arrived from Calcutta yesterday. We all, including Giriraj, met this afternoon to discuss the situation. The first point brought out, and the most significant at the present moment, is that we have not yet received approval from the Charity Commissioner for the transaction. In this regard, then, it is we, not Mr. Nair, who have failed to execute the terms of sale. We cannot instigate any action to force Mr. Nair to make the conveyance until this is done. It was concluded that our mistake has been relying on Mr. Dewanji and Mrs. Morarji to arrange for the Charity Commissioner's approval, as they promised to do, rather than doing it ourselves. We've approached the Charity Commissioner and have been informed that the approval will take time, as there is some processing that has to be done. We plan to find out the person who is the superior of the Charity Commissioner, most likely the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, and appeal to him for expedition of the matter. Once we receive the approval from the Charity Commissioner, then we can request Mr. Nair to execute the conveyance strictly according to the terms of the original agreement of sale, without any concessions or changes. If he refuses or delays beyond 1 day after this, then we can begin the specific performances suit as Karandar and your grace, your divine grace, fully discussed. Paragraph. We are now going to seek out a reliable and competent lawyer for legal consultation of the situation, and no more rely upon any big friends or whatever to do our business for us. With all the legal challenges we were facing, we wanted the best lawyers to represent us, so we approached Mr. R.C. Dhruva, secretary to the great industrialist Seth R.D. Birla. The honorific Seth indicates his exalted status. To find out what solicitors the Birlas used, thinking they must be the best. Mr. Dhruva recommended the firm Mullah and Craig, Blunt and Caro. And the next Monday, after informing Srila Prabhupada, we visited their offices and began working with him. We met with Vasantrao Nayak, the chief minister, and he promised to speak personally with the Charity Commissioner to see what he could do to expedite our matters. Even before receiving our letters, however, Prabhupada in Manila had written to Mal Krishna and me. 1. We have fulfilled all the conditions as purchaser. 2. Mr. Nair purposely delayed with a motive to cheat us, as he had done with some others in this connection. 3. But this time he cannot cheat us because we are in possession of the land and our deity Radha Krishna is installed there. 4. Therefore, we must immediately go to the court for enforcing him to execute the conveyance immediately. 5. Even the court case goes on for a long time. Still, our business there cannot be stopped. 6. Without going to the court, we cannot make any compromise with him. 7. But I think we can arrange the full amount of 14 lakhs to get this rascal out of the scene. 8. But we cannot do it without going to the court. Otherwise, we shall become a party for breaking the purchase agreement. Therefore, we have to go to the court before making any compromise. 9. In the meantime, take definite information from the bank whether they can loan 50% of the whole value. 10. The whole value is 14 lakhs. We have already paid 2 lakhs. We can arrange to pay further 5 lakhs. That means we pay 7 lakhs. The bank may pay the balance 7 lakhs. 11. Actually, the banks may not have to pay even 7 lakhs because, according to the purchase agreement, the last payment of 4 lakhs has to be paid upon the decision of the court case pending about Gan Lao and Company. So you have to act according to this program on the advice of suitable lawyers. From Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada sent us several letters in quick succession. On October 19th, he wrote, "It appears the Charity Commissioner permission is delayed and not refused. It is not a very grand mistake, and we can chastise for that. We can chastise for that the lawyers. I have read the clause 11 in the original agreement of sale, and I do not find any mention that there being a 6-month time limit for obtaining Charity Commissioner's approval. So there's only some delay, that's all. That will not be sufficient grounds for Nair to rescind the contract. Rather, our position is very strong. So long we are in possession and we have paid him the earnest money and more. So best thing is to consult Mullah and Mullah and proceed accordingly. Try to fix up some arrangement acceptable to Mr. Nair for paying him, but we shall not risk that we may lose everything to Gan Lao or some other victim of Mr. Nair's cheating dealings. So best thing is to follow the advice of Mullah and Mullah and stick to our position very securely." More. Having further thought to the matter, he wrote again. "Further to my letter of yesterday, I have thought the matter over thoroughly, and without any doubt our position in the matter is very strong. Nair is bluffing. One of my god brothers, who is expert in these things, has advised me, and I also know it from experience, that once the agreement of sale is signed, that is final, and it will not be very easy. In fact, it will be impossible for Nair to defeat us in the courts if it comes to that." Paragraph. Now, the thing is that Nair has accepted from us 2 lakhs of rupees as follows. He gives some details. Now, according to our agreement, that last 1 lakh of rupees was not to be accepted by him until the conveyance was completed. So he has taken. That means he accepts that the conveyance has been completed. Now you may go to the bank or somehow or other determine the exact date on which Mr. Nair accepted the check, as above mentioned, for 1 lakh rupees, and that will serve as legal proof he has finalized the conveyance terms. Paragraph. Our position is very strong. Possession is 9/10 of the law. Why you should be afraid of him? We can satisfy any court of law. He has given us possession according to the terms of the agreement of sale, and we have paid him rupees 50,000 to take possession, and he has acknowledged receipt. That means the transaction is finished. If I have something and I sell you and I give you, and you give me some money and I give you that thing, the transaction is finished. Never mind, there is no receipt. So with with Nair, our transaction is finished. We have paid him money. He has given us possession, and if we agreed to terms for paying the rest of the money, that's all. He is simply planning tricks because there is no receipt, and he does not want to give us receipt. Paragraph. Long letter. Take information from the bank when he took the money. 1 year from that time, according to the terms of the pre-purchase agreement, we are supposed to pay further 2 lakhs, that is, 1 year from the execution of the conveyance. So we have paid rupees 50,000 as earnest money according to the agreement, and the agreement then states that we must pay rupees 1.5 lakhs upon the execution of the conveyance. So he has accepted. That means conveyance transaction is complete. He may give us receipt or not. That doesn't matter. It is a case of misappropriation. He did not deliver the goods. Once, when I was in business, I took money from one man for an order of goods, and I was a bit late in delivering them, so he wanted to sue me in the court for misappropriation. It is the same thing. We have paid Nair, taken possession, and now he doesn't want to deliver the goods. Paragraph. According to clause 14 and 15 in the purchase agreement, it is our option to rescind the contract within 6 months, not the vendor's, but he has accepted the check of 1 lakh before 6 months. Therefore, we consider that he has completed the conveyance, and we do not want to rescind, but we shall close the deal immediately. And we do not want to rescind, but we shall close the deal immediately. Whoops. Finished. That's all. He is trying to avoid the issue by tricks, and he has dominated you, and you are a little afraid of him, and he has fooled you to think that he is superior legal position, so that you will give him some money. But this is cheating. We shall not give him any more money. Don't pay him any more. First of all, bring a criminal case against him. Make criminal case by consulting lawyer. It will not take much time. It is a simple case of his cheating. That any reasonable man can see. So immediately you can file criminal case. He has taken money, but he has not executed. So why you should be disappointed and afraid of him? Our position is very, very strong. We have paid money and we are in position. So what remained for conveyance? As soon as you take money, the transaction is finished. You may take receipt or not. Otherwise, it is simply cheating. So find out a first-class lawyer and apply in the court that the purchase agreement is already done and get it done. That's all. He is simply bluffing. There's another paragraph. Now, you purchase that house on the south borderline, prepare it nicely, and you can live there for years if we have to. I think he, Ratna Karki, will take 15,000 rupees if you can persuade him. Or, if he will not yield, you can pay 20,000 and finish the business. Enclosed, find a copy of one letter I have forwarded to Mr. and Mrs. Nair. You may further request them to come and see me here, Vrindavan. It will not be too much difficult for me to come to Bombay at this time. It will be too much difficult. Otherwise, I am coming to Bombay in December if he wants to wait so long. Another thing is, I do not think it is necessary for Babananda to remain in Bombay for this business. Better if Karanda and Tamal Krishna tackle the matter cooperatively by applying their full attention, and Babananda may return to Calcutta for taking charge there as soon as possible. Long letter. Ooh, Prabhupada. What was the date? That was the next day. So October 19th, then October 20th, October 24th, Prabhupada wrote, "You think your position is rather hopeless, but I say that our position is very strong, just the opposite. Why do you say hopeless? When Nair accepted 2 lakh, does it again, 2 lakhs rupees of ours, the terms of purchase are finished. Simple. He has delayed, simply he has delayed to give us the papers. The transaction is finished when he accepted the money. So by tricks he is delaying, and so why you are delaying, so why you are delaying to make case? Immediately make a criminal case. After the case is decided, he shall be forced to give us the conveyance, and within a year, 1 year after, we shall give him the next installment of 2 lakhs. Because the transaction is finished, we can legally occupy all the land. It is not trespass when the transaction has been completed and Nair has accepted the terms of sale by accepting money. If you are thinking hopeless, then how can I make you hopeful? Our point is," says it again, "he has accepted the money. That means he has agreed to the terms of sale. Take police precaution if he is threatening violence. We are in possession according to the terms of the agreement. Simply he has delayed the conveyance. Therefore I say, you are boys. You boys cannot deal very well in these matters because you are too timid. Now, whatever you like, you may do. Immediately, criminal case should be taken, but that you are not doing because he is bluffing you. He says big words and makes threats, and you believe him foolishly and do like he says. That I shall do this. We have paid money. That means he has accepted." Another full page letter. "Immediately an application should be submitted to the magistrate if he has accepted the money, has willfully delayed the conveyance and tricks, and he has threatened to drive away even by violence. What is this? And take police precaution that he is threatening us. Go to the magistrate and tell him, we gave Nair money and now he is threatening violence to drive us away. We shall go to the court. There is no other way. Criminal court means complaint that we have been given money. He has not given conveyance. He is threatening by force to drive us from the place. This is the only settlement possible, that he returns our rupees, 2,770,000 immediately, and we vacate or immediately file criminal case. There's no alternative. We have finished the business. He is entrapped because he has received the money. Our boys do not understand anything. As soon as you receive the money, the transaction is finished. Even it's 6 months past, it is our option to rescind, not his. Charity commissioner has delayed. That is not a very serious disqualifying. That is not very serious for disqualifying us. There's no time limit mentioned for getting permission from the charity commissioner. Still, try for the permission from charity commissioner as quickly as possible. Then we shall go on with the terms of our original agreement, either voluntarily or we shall have to force him through the courts. One thing is, you have said that we have to pay, quote, entire additional 70,000 stamp duty. So this does not mean we must pay only an additional 5%, more numbers. That is not clear. It is my opinion, if you apply a petition before the magistrate that Nair has taken the money, that he has not given the conveyance, playing tricks, and that now he is threatening violence, such petition will clear everything. He is afraid of going to court. That is our favorable point. My clear-cut view is simply to present a petition to the magistrate. It costs only 12 annas, less than 1 rupee. This complaint should be submitted. Take a good criminal lawyer and file. Then everything will be clear. On Prabhupada's advice, on November 2, considering Nair's violent, sinister threats, I had Manasvi lodge a complaint against him at the Santa Cruz police station. Of course, Nair never returned our money. So a week later, on November 9, I filed a criminal case against him in the magistrate's court in Bandra, in which I presented the history of not only his cheating, but his violent threats, which themselves were criminal, citing the following instances. On September 4, in the meeting in the office of the solicitor Chin Manlal Shah, after expressing his intention to take back possession of the land, Nair said that if we did not vacate, he could burn the whole place down. On October 17th, Bhavananda Karandar and I met Nair at his home in the Theosophical Colony, Juhu, and he had been aggressive and hostile and called us trespassers and demanded that we restore possession to him. Otherwise, he said he could shoot every one of us at once. He could shoot every one of us. Although we had pleaded with him not to speak such violent words, he had persisted and appeared so intent on retaking possession that he seemed ready to go to any extent, lawful or not, to achieve his ends. And the following day, on October 18th, again at Chen Man Lal Shah's office, Nair had told Tamal Krishna, Bhavananda Karandar, and me that he had the ways and means to obtain possession of the land. Based on my presentation, the magistrate concluded, from the facts mentioned in the application, I am satisfied there exists within local limits of my jurisdiction a dispute between the applicant and respondents 1 and 2, Mr. and Mrs. Nair, over the premises referred to in the application, which is likely to cause breach of the peace. I thereby direct the parties to appear before this court in person or by pleader on January 12, 1/12/72, and put in writing statements of their respective claims as regards the facts and actual possession of the subject of the dispute, and produce such documents or adduced by putting in affidavits the evidence of such persons as they rely upon in support of such claims. But, as Prabhupada had written, for all of his bluster, Nair was afraid of going to court, and a month later he met with Prabhupada in Hyderabad. In the midst of all the battles and intrigue, Prabhupada encouraged me to maintain the standard of Krishna consciousness as the basis of our effort and eventual success. So long as the regular principles are followed, he wrote, everything else will follow. Mr. Nair had a cordial relationship with Shamsundar, and both he and his wife liked Shamsundar's wife Malati and were fond of their daughter Saraswati. So Shamsundar and Tamal Krishna arranged to meet him with Srila Prabhupada in Hyderabad. Nair agreed to come, but suspecting that Prabhupada had some mystical power and might use them to persuade him to act against his will, he brought a guru with him, a yogi, thinking the man would counteract Prabhupada's spiritual power. On November 21, Nair, the yogi, and Shamsundar all went to the home of Panalal Pitri, the wealthiest, most aristocratic man in Hyderabad, and a good friend of the devotees, where Prabhupada was staying. Prabhupada met with his guests, and they conversed over a huge, elaborate feast. After they had eaten, Prabhupada let out a big yawn, and when he did, the yogi said, "Oh, Swamiji, you must be very tired. We should not disturb you now. You should rest, and we can talk later." "Oh, yes," Prabhupada replied, "I'm very tired." So, Nair and the yogi excused themselves and retired to the next room, which they were sharing with Tamal Krishna. When they had left, Prabhupada spoke privately with Tamal Krishna. When someone asks you if you are tired, he said, it actually means he is tired. Go to the other room, and you will see that they are sleeping. Very carefully, without disturbing the guru, wake up Mr. Nair and bring him to me. So, Tamal Krishna tiptoed into the room, but sure enough, both men were fast asleep. He gently shook Nair and whispered, "Mr. Nair, Mr. Nair, wake up. Prabhupada wants to see you. And Nair, roused from his slumber, got up and followed him to Prabhupada's room without the yogi. Prabhupada talked with Nair for 2 hours. Nair said that in order to execute the conveyance, he had to get a certificate from the income tax department saying that all his taxes were paid, which they weren't. The 2 lakhs we had paid him, he said, were not enough to cover his back taxes. He needed more money so that he could get the income tax certificate in order to execute the conveyance. By the end of the discussion, they'd worked out a new sales agreement. We would pay another 3 lakhs, and that combined with the 2 lakhs and 7,500 rupees we had already paid, which amounted to more than 5 lakhs, would be enough for Nair to pay his back taxes, and the conveyance would be immediately executed in our favor. While Prabhupada and Nair were settling the final legal points, Tamal Krishna and Shamsundar drafted the agreement, and Shamsundar typed it out. Then, with the yogi still soundly sleeping, Nair signed the agreement, the document, and Tamal Krishna flew back with him to Bombay the next afternoon. Prabhupada was very happy that the memorandum of agreement had been signed and that our legal position would be restored. If all went well, the taxes would be paid and the conveyance executed by December 1, in less than 2 weeks. Working with our solicitor, Mr. Mehta of the Mullah and Mullah, the devotees drafted the conveyance and sent it to Mr. Nair for his approval and his wife's signature. On November 25, Prabhupada flew to Bombay to complete the transaction. He stayed at Pranjivan and Jasu Valia's home in the Juhu scheme, which, in honor of Lord Krishna and their association with Krishna consciousness, they had named Hare Krishna. The house had been designed by a student of Frank Lloyd Wright and was round in shape, and, apart from the large glass picture windows, had mostly wood surfaces. It featured an expansive lawn and garden with a small temple similar to the house in design, in which stood a beautiful deity of Krishna, whom Mrs. Valia worshipped devoutly. We were new to Juhu and had only a small shed for a temple and a hut for our residence, and even that could not be seen from the street. And the house was so distinctive and prominent that when people asked taxi drivers to take them to Hare Krishna land, they sometimes ended up at Hare Krishna house. While there, Prabhupada was asked by Upendra, a local middle-aged man, later initiated as Vamanadev, if a devotee sees a man drowning in a river, should he save him? A devotee engages only in devotional service, Prabhupada replied. He doesn't interfere with people's karma. But if he doesn't save the man, people may criticize, oh, he's a devotee, could have saved him, but he let him drown. Devotees are heartless. So, in consideration of popular sentiment, loka vichar, the devotee may save him. But otherwise, pure devotees have nothing to do with karma. Jnana karma janavritam. During the same darshan, another elderly man, Yogindra, asked Prabhupada about peace of mind. He had recently come to stay at the temple and was meeting Prabhupada for the first time. Prabhupada replied that the mind was material. It could be made peaceful by drinking or by sleep, but we're not interested in peace of mind. We're interested in serving Krishna. Quote, just like Arjuna, he wanted to leave the battlefield of Kurukshetra to have peace of mind. But Krishna said, no, I want you to fight. Prabhupada said that our goal was to serve and please Krishna, and that Arjuna therefore sacrificed his peace of mind for the sake of Krishna's service. Break. Tamal Krishna told Prabhupada how Mr. Nair had bluffed me. Perhaps he expected him to reproach me, but Prabhupada replied, Giriraj is simple, what can be done? Actually, I had really been struggling. I had so much responsibility and so many problems, even with the devotees. And living in India, and dealing with the enemies was a big challenge. I had been waiting for Prabhupada to return to Bombay so I could feel some relief and become blissful again. Even after he came, I could not shake off my anxiety. I have really been suffering, I confided in Tamal Krishna. I know I'm doing what Prabhupada wants me to do because he ordered me to do it, but still, I am in so much distress. I thought that when he came, I could get some relief, but I'm still in anxiety. How is this possible? Tamal Krishna replied, it was like being in a house on fire. To get out of the house, you have to go through the window. Tamal's answers. And to get out of the window, you have to break it with your hand. You know that you have to do it. You have to break the glass with your hand. Your hand will get cut and it'll hurt, but you have to do it to save your entire body. I reflected on this comparison. In essence, he was saying that just as the hand is part of the body, we are part and parcel of Krishna, represented by Prabhupada, and therefore part and parcel of Prabhupada's mission. For the benefit of the mission, we may have to suffer, like breaking the window. It may hurt, but we do it for Krishna and Prabhupada, and because we are their part and parcel, even though we temporarily suffer pain, ultimately benefit. It was a perfect answer, I thought, in keeping with Prabhupada's statement that if necessary for Krishna service, we can temporarily sacrifice our peace of mind. Whew. As soon as Prabhupada revived the sales agreement with Mr. Nair, he wrote to Diwanji asking him to provide the title certificate, which would certify that Nair had a clear and marketable title to the property. Earlier, Prabhupada had cabled Diwanji from Los Angeles, but Diwanji had not replied, so Prabhupada had arranged for his lawyer in LA to contact him, and Diwanji had replied that he no longer represented us. So Prabhupada advised us to find another lawyer, which had led to our appointing Mullah and Mullah, but because Diwanji had already been involved in the transaction, Prabhupada requested he issue the title certificate. Quote, it is now difficult to change again our attorneys. Therefore, kindly be merciful upon us and deliver the title certificate so that the whole business may be completed without delay for everyone's satisfaction. I thought Diwanji was our friend, Prabhupada told me one night. I could not know that he was implicated with Nair. He paused for a minute and then added, or Krishna did not want you to know. I thought of Krishna's words in the Bhagavad Gita, Mataksricha Jnana Pravanamcha. From me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness.